Good evening and welcome to today's Tropics for August 26th, 2020. Please note I am not a meteorologist and this video is just a collection of my thoughts and opinions about the storm I'm talking about. And for any decision making, please consult National Hurricane Center or your local officials. So today I'm looking at Hurricane Laura, so it's a much stronger storm now, a very dangerous storm. Category 4 now, it's 120 knots, and you can see it does look very healthy on satellite right now. You can see the eye pretty obvious here. It's a bit of a larger eye, and you can see in the yellow where there's a lower, warmer clouds. So it is a very healthy looking storm. It has very good outflow at the moment, although there is a bit of shear that might stop the rapid intensification that has been going on pretty much all day. It's now down to 950 millibars about, and definitely doesn't look good for especially around the coast of around the coast of the area around the uh, border of Texas and Louisiana. But hopefully there is some sort of surprise weakening, but there really isn't a whole lot of time for that. Looking at the infrared imagery, you can see pretty cold convection, somewhere at approaching negative 70 degrees Celsius. So it is a cold or like a cold band of or ring of convection. So that does tell you it's a very strong storm. We can see some hot towers whizzing around the eye wall. So it is very strong, and you can see again the very clear eye. It's quite warm, so that tells you it's able to have some subsidence over the center, and that means it is a very intense tropical cyclone. They had recon in the storm just earlier today. It left a little while ago, and there's another one coming in, so we'll have to see if it's strengthened since then. But during the mission, it strengthened pretty consistently and rapidly, going down a whole 6 millibars in only a couple of hours. So it's been doing this most of the day, and it's pretty much bombed out to a major hurricane under very favorable conditions. However, conditions might not be quite as favorable starting kind of soon. So there's this upper low here that's feeling some poleward outflow, and that is one thing along with equatorward outflow that is currently really helping the storm to intensify. And you can see the eye here, and it's getting quite dry. So that is a dry sinking air. It's a pretty textbook, and it is currently still drying as it intensifies. However, there is some southwesterly flow aloft that's going to, or it's starting to affect the cyclone, and it looks like it'll start feeling the effects of southwesterly shear pretty soon, and that might at least stop the rapid intensification. So it doesn't seem totally likely right now we're going to see rapid intensification up until landfall like we did with Hurricane Michael in 2018. Rather, it should probably slow intensifying, if not stop, but it'll still be a very dangerous cyclone. So don't let your guard down, even if something like that does happen. You can see a couple of signs of the shear, especially to the north. There's some shear along with a tropical cyclone outflow, but there is also a little bit of convection. If you look closely, it gets sheared a little bit to this northeast under the outflow. So some of that shear will probably be a detriment to the storm, but it's too late to really get it to weaken a whole lot before the landfall. So it will be a dangerous cyclone as it heads into the coast. So as Laura nears landfall, it's going to bring several risks with it. First of which is tornado activity. So as you have these, especially outer bands, start to rotate onshore, such as this one, you are going to have a high shear because of the difference between low level flow and the tropical cyclone outflow. So you do have highly sheared thunderstorms on the especially outer fringes here, and that means that some tornado activity, and there have been several tornado warnings this afternoon associated with this banding, and that will continue, especially on the right front quadrant. And since Laura is moving generally west-northwest to more north as it comes towards the coast, it looks like mostly the northeastern side is where you're going to see the most tornado activity. And so that will be another hazard along with the current wind, surge, and rain threat. Uh, however, one good thing about the tropical cyclone or tornado activity is unless you are except for a few tropical cyclones, the tornadoes spun up by them tend to not be especially severe tornadoes like you'd see in a tornado outbreak. Rather, there's are mostly weaker ones like EF0 or EF1. You don't tend to get the more violent ones with tropical cyclones. However, this is an added hazard, and they can cause damaging winds even if they aren't the most severe kind of tornadoes. So definitely be on the watch for those as Laura comes in landfall, especially again in the right front quadrant, so the northeast side. So it would definitely be east or center where you'd start seeing some of those impacts from tornadoes. Looking at the official National Hurricane Center forecast for Laura, it is expected to come mostly north-northwest and turn a bit more north. It doesn't look like it'll be too far west or east of this, but there is track error because you can have the storm wobble a bit. You can see it wobbling just a tad here, so we'll have to watch for exactly where it landfalls, where the wobbling is. But it does seem there'll be a large area where there is going to be high wind or possibly dangerous when there's hurricane warning from Galveston region out to central Louisiana, and definitely that one will be dangerous along with the surge in rainfall, and even further to the mouth of the Mississippi and a bit further southwest in Texas. There are tropical storm warnings, so you could see some high wind as it passes by, but not as high as the center, which will have the most dangerous conditions. Even with the stronger tropical cyclones such as Laura, flooding is definitely a big impact and is the main cause of people who die from tropical cyclones. So flooding is always a big hazard, and it will be with Laura for a couple of reasons. Here is the rain forecast from the Weather Prediction Center. So uh, you can see that as it comes through the area, it's going to drop very heavy rain, and even if you're not in an area that will see storm surge, you could get very heavy rain and possibly flash flooding. So if you're in a flood-prone area, definitely be prepared for the flooding from the rainfall as Laura comes ashore. And it is possible if there are points, or it is possible that there will be points that get even higher rainfall than this, and possibly more storm surge. But these are small mesoscale differences, and they're really hard to tell uh, really this far out, even more than a few hours or so, where exactly the highest rain would be. However, one of the most dangerous parts of Laura will be the storm surge. Unfortunately, as it comes in, it looks like peak storm surge will roughly coincide with high tides. You're going to get pretty much a maximum flooding possible with this storm as it comes in. So you're having values looking up to 15 to 20 feet in the western part of Louisiana, including Lake Charles, I believe. And this would mean that low-lying areas, even just even up to a few dozen miles away from the shore, are going to be inundated by this flooding. And if you're near the coast, this will cause major flooding. And definitely, if you're in this area and you haven't evacuated already, you should do so pretty much immediately. But definitely still listen to your local officials because they know the area better than I do, and do what they say. And if you are in an evacuation zone, though, definitely consider that because this will be very dangerous and will flood many areas, especially towards the center, even a bit inland. But does depend on the wobbles. You may see this a bit further west or east than forecast, but does seem like we have more certainty about that. And yeah, definitely a extremely dangerous storm surge, and even high values out west and east. But definitely the most dangerous part is 15 to 20 feet of storm surge, very significant values out in the western part of the Louisiana coast. And even if you aren't in a low-lying area, you might even see flooding from this because these are very high values. So prepare for the worst, but hopefully there is something unseen that maybe causes the storm to weaken. But unfortunately, stuff like, let's say, the storm surge is already baked in. Uh, Otherwise, I don't have too much other or else to talk about today. If you have any questions, comments about my video, please let me know. Thanks for watching.